Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you have not been here before. If you have been here before, welcome back to the desk corner, which is apparently my permanent new filming location. It has been brought to my attention that even though I've been posting videos for like a year on this channel now, a year, and I will make a year special, 1 year special type video soon. But anyways, even though I've been posting for that long, I actually have not made a video about sketching. And I kind of struggled with this because I didn't really know how to make a video that would be helpful but not boring. So the drawing I happen to be working on right now is an iguana, and the outlining process took me forever. So I thought that'd be the perfect way to show you guys a few different techniques and tips and things like that on how I get a sketch done for a drawing. Okay, so now that that's all out of the way, let's go ahead and go to the desk view and get started. Welcome to the desk overhead view. This, as you can see, is an iguana. Now this isn't like a sketchbook tutorial, like how to practice sketching various things. No, that's not really what today's video is about. What I'm trying to kind of convey in today's video, I want to show you guys how you can get a good sketch or outline for a drawing that's going to be a completed piece, not necessarily just like practice sketching in a sketchbook. So that's why I'm using a more complicated sketch that I did here, and we're just going to talk about a few different tips and techniques that might be helpful for you guys. First thing I'm going to cover, so what do I use to sketch? None of my fancy art supplies or none of my pencils or anything. What I actually use is just a basic mechanical pencil to do my outlines and sketches. And the reason for that is kind of just because you don't have to sharpen it and you can get fine detail because mechanical pencil has such a very thin lead. So I don't actually use anything fancy to sketch out my work. I don't even use my graphite pencils to do it, honestly. And I like to use an eraser like this one that is non-smudge and isn't going to create a ton of residue on the paper, because that can get old fast if you make mistakes and you need to erase. Another thing I want to mention is don't press too hard with your pencil when you're sketching for a drawing that's going to be a completed piece, because you don't want any outlines to eventually show through. So for example, I'm not going to do a lot of pressure on my paper when I'm sketching. It doesn't have to be so light that you can barely see it, but it can be more like that. What you don't want to do is a pencil stroke that's really hard, because it actually creates a bit of an indent in the paper, and then when you go to erase it, hold on, I'm gonna erase it real quick. Okay, I've zoomed in so hopefully you guys can see. So I went and erased the light and medium stroke pencil line, and you cannot see those anymore. And then I tried to erase this pencil stroke, and it had created an indent, and it's not going to come out much further than this. So I'm pretty much in trouble if I wanted to erase that line. So that's why I don't like to put a lot of pressure when I'm sketching. So how do we actually get our general shapes and proportions in before we get to sketching in all the details? There's a few different methods you can use, and you've probably heard of a lot of these. So you can freehand it. You can use the grid method, where you create a bunch of even squares and then you do the same on your reference photo and you draw square by square. That's a method a lot of people use. You can also completely just trace out some shapes from your reference photo and then sketch the rest in freehand, all the details and things like that. That would be a method to use if you're more interested in shading or coloring rather than actually sketching, or if you need to get a drawing done quickly. That speeds up the process, of course. And then the other method, this is my preferred method I like to use for completed drawings, is you can actually use something. I like to use a ruler. You can just use your pencil if you'd like to, but this is something that you're going to use, a tool you're going to use to measure out where everything should go. So I would go to my reference photo, of course, which I would make the same size as my drawing, and I would measure out something. So let's measure out the iguana's beard. I think this is called the iguana's beard. I don't know. I could, for example, measure out the longest point of the beard and then straight up and see how long that is. So it would be about a little less than 4.5 inches. Okay, so I have that measurement now, and what I would do is I would check my reference photo and see if that's accurate. So I'd measure the same point. And then what I could do is I could measure it this way, and I like to measure from different points of reference. So maybe the inner crease of the elbow here, I think you still call it an elbow, of the iguana's arm here, all the way to the end of the beard. And you can see that that's pretty much exactly 4 inches. Right? So you could see that little line here where the beard ends. that's 4 inches, and I can check to make sure that's accurate in my reference photo. You don't have to do this for every little detail, but you would do it for the main shapes to make sure you're getting an accurate kind of sketch and your proportions are accurate. You could do the same thing for the eye, so you could measure the eye, the edge of the eye all the way to the end of the mouth, or you could measure maybe from this side to this side. You could also use this to center your drawing, so you could see where you need to start the body here, where you want it to end here, how you want your page to be spaced out. Because you're the artist, you know, you want your drawing to be spaced out a certain way on your paper. You don't necessarily want it all to be up on the top left corner after you're done sketching it. So you could freehand it and then realize that it's kind of off-centered, and that's kind of why completely freehanding is not something I always like to do with a sketch I'm going to turn into a completed piece, because sometimes you sketch off center and it just kind of is annoying. You can trim the paper later. If you want to avoid that altogether, you can use this method of measuring. I mentioned you can use a pencil or an eraser or something to do that too. If you don't have a ruler on hand or you don't want to use one, you could say like, how many lengths of the eraser is it from one side of this iguana, or the side of this iguana all the way to the end. And I didn't measure it very well, but I would say it's about, I don't know, like 3.5 erasers long. Now to talk a little bit about some of the details. So once you have your general outline sketched in, then you want to start sketching in all those details. Now for example, if I sketch the arm in very quickly like that, and I want to create kind of a scales pattern, I might do something like this. I'll show you guys what I mean. Okay, so then I have the general pattern of the scales, and if I want to go in and round them or do whatever I want, create more like a diamond shape, I can do that after, but the main point is that I have this general outline in. Sometimes for things like these, you don't want to go too fast because you can lose control of your pencil and it won't be even, but you also don't want to go too slow, because then the lines look a little bit less natural if you try really hard to keep them completely perfect and you draw it too slowly. So that was just an example for something like a pattern. If you were to draw something like an eye, you might start with the outline. So of course this is like a reptile eye, so it's a little bit different, but you might start with the outline here, and then you might put in the actual iris like that, and then the pupil. And then of course I like to sketch in any of those lines that come around the eyes. And there's just sort of a lot of different textures and different kind of shapes you need to do. So like for example, if you were drawing the beard of the iguana, you might keep a kind of flowing hand. And then you might sketch in a few of the finer details that you don't want to forget about, so that way when you color it or shade it, you know where those details go. Now for the scales on the face, there were a lot of kind of like irregular shapes that look like that. So I actually sketched these in just the normal way. I didn't use any method to help me with this, and sometimes for some details you just need to do that, and some of them are not a perfect pattern, and that's okay too. It can just be kind of time consuming. Now let's say I was getting ready to actually start coloring and I want to work on the background first. That's what I'm going to do. So I like to take my kneaded eraser and I'm going to just really gently lift up some of that graphite from my sketch. Now I zoomed in because I want to emphasize that you can still see the line. So when I go into color, I still can see that line, but there's not very much excess graphite. You have to be kind of careful to kind of tap the eraser and not like go in and really do like a hard erase, because then you're going to completely get rid of the line. Now I won't go in either and erase the entire thing. What I'll do is I'll only erase the areas necessary for the area I'm going to be coloring, and then I'll leave the rest because I don't want to lose sight of my entire sketch. I don't want to erase it all, make it too hard for me to color later. So I'm going to do erasing section by section. If have to be careful because if you have really light lines, like these detail lines here, you have to just very gently tap. You don't want to erase the entire thing, of course. I'm actually gonna go ahead and get started coloring this iguana, and I just wanted to give you a few tips and tricks for creating a nice sketch or outline for a drawing you're going to be doing. This may have been a little bit boring for some of you who are used to my more like sped up videos. However, the main purpose of this, I really wanted to like just kind of zoom in on some of the details and show you guys how I did that without speeding things up and adding a bunch of extra stuff. So I hope that this was somewhat of a helpful thing for you guys. Thanks again so much for watching. Leave a comment below if you have anything you'd like to say, if you have any questions about the process I'm talking about or the processes I'm talking about in this video. Thanks again so much for watching, you guys. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like or comment, whatever you want to do. If you like the channel and you want to see more like this, definitely subscribe to the channel and I'll be coming out with more related content in the future. But that's all I have for today, so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!